Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the FM show. I'm Curtis.
I'm Tom.
And we have a transfer special for you today. We're going to be looking at the ins and the outs of everything with the transfers in Football Manager 2018. So, let's get straight into it.
So, the season's coming to an end, but the transfer window in England, at least, is currently open.
It's wide open, mate. Someone close that window. It's wide open.
So we thought we'd give you the inside tips and to make the most out of the transfer market in FM. We know a lot of you guys, regularly come to us with questions about how, you can sell players, how you can structure a deal to get the best value when signing a player. So we're going to give you all of that info and a little bit more besides as well.
Exactly, yeah. We're going to give you the inside track to make the most money out of your signings, all that good stuff.
All about the Wonga.
Money, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And on top of that, we've also got some exciting pieces of news and a few little extra things. So, should we jump straight into the news, Tom?
Let's get into the news.
So our first piece of news is the FM Charity Cup. Now, some of our favourite content creators, whether this is YouTube, blogging, anything like that, they've all come together to put on a fantastic charity match down at Leamington Spa. And they've so far raised a fantastic amount of money.
Smashed them.
And they've done so well. And we want to keep giving them the push. So what we're going to do, so there's going to be a link down below to let you guys go and check out the full match. They recorded the entire 90 minutes, all the pre and post match stuff. Really good stuff, so go check it out. And they're raising some money for War Child, which of course is absolutely fantastic, so click the link down below for that. But on top of that, Tom, we've got something else going on. We've got a little vacancy in the studio, don't we?
We do indeed.
We have a number of vacancies.
So basically, it's that time of year again. We're looking to get people in to come and test FM over the summer months. So it's a 4 months fixed term contract. We're looking for 37.5 hours a week commitment, but you're going to be playing FM. So what more do you want to spend your time doing over the summer?
Exactly.
Perfect opportunity as well to join the team here at SI. A lot of the current team have started in QA, haven't they?
Exactly.
So work their way up. So if you want to get involved in the development side of FM, get in touch, and we're going to put the link to the vacancy below and go check it out if you think you've got the skills to help us out here at the studio.
Exactly that. There's a link to the careers page which will give you loads of information. So before you put a comment down below asking about it, all the info will be on the link down below. So go and check that out if you haven't already. So now that we're done with the news, we're going to move on to the transfer aspect and the scouting and all that good stuff that we said we were going to cover. So this one is a very kind of gameplay tips focused episode. We've got some really cool stuff to share with you guys. So we're going to start off with the scouting and how to get the best out of your scouting network, because obviously there's been a huge amount of changes this year to the way that everything works really around scouting, whether that's the new packages we've introduced, the way you can send different scouts out for different types of responsibilities now and stuff like that. So Tom, let's give them some tips.
So, as Kate said, a lot of changes in scouting this year that replicate the way real world scouting works, but also can really be used to help you work with your scouts to get the most out of those transfer windows. So, the first thing, something I like to do is really take advantage of scouting packages. So
I love it. So this is something you've taught me with this. I absolutely love this. It's really useful. Absolutely.
So basically, what I like to do is work differently with scouting packages inside and outside the transfer window. So when you're inside the transfer window, really hammer on signing established players rather than looking for youth players, because generally you're going to want to bring people in who can have an instant impact in your squad.
Exactly.
And also take advantage of the short-term focus option as well. If you delegate your scouting responsibilities to your chief scout, at the top of the screen you'll see the scouting focus option. That's really good for finding players who, maybe you've got an injury crisis at left back, so you think, okay, well, I've got 2 weeks to try and bring in a left back. Let's go and see that short-term focus. And your scouts will report back to you. They'll drop everything else and they'll report back to you on what you need at that time. That's really helpful as well. And then outside transfer windows, I like to be a bit more pragmatic, I guess. So
it makes so much sense.
Yeah, well, this is how real clubs operate. So I thought, let's try and replicate that in the game as well. So then that's when I really ramp up on trying to identify youth prospects in the scouting packages side. So I up the spending on that side of things, and then I also send my scouts out to places where traditionally a lot of the big youth prospects have come through. South America, some parts of Africa, Eastern Europe, that sort of thing, and Scandinavia, where a lot of the youth talent generally,
it's kind of pulled there. Yeah, exactly.
And then they move over to maybe Western Europe in an established league to try and work their way into the professional game.
And it makes so much sense, because especially if you're at a club that doesn't have a huge scouting budget.
Yeah.
If you're in a big league, it's not. Usually you can just chuck all your money in. But it's just something I'd never thought to change it on the fly. I always just thought it was a good idea just to be like, right, this is what I think's the best, this is the best for that one, and just stick it in. And I think that's something that's so important. If you really want to find these best gems, it's just to keep changing it around, keep on top of it, like every few weeks, every month, actually dedicate a bit of time to.
Well, I mean, it's tempting, isn't it? When you're outside of transfer windows to not really look at the scouting element.
Absolutely. Unless
you're looking for like out of contract players or transfer listed players, you might be able to get in the window. But there's always stuff you can do to identify those next talents, especially now that you've got so many teams competing for those youngsters.
Oh, exactly.
So if you want to get ahead of the game.
Get
exactly, and it's great if you're a newly promoted side into a top flight or whatever. If you're a mid-table side looking to get that next step, then tips like that I think are really useful. It's really helped me in my save this year.
There you go. That's all you need to know, and that is some really useful tips there for scouting. But we're gonna move on now. I'm gonna jump out, and we're gonna bring in Neil Brock, who is, I'm sure some of you guys know if you use the forums. Neil Brock is the king of the forums, but he also does a lot of QA, and he knows a ton about the game. So we've got some really exciting questions for him surrounding transfers. So let's jump into it.
Neil's joined us here in the studio. Welcome to the FM show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honour to be on the FM show, albeit on the 8th FM show. It's taken you a while to get me here. But
Well, good things come to those who wait, don't
there you go. Let's hope so anyway.
Hey, well, let's see. So do you want to explain a bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis here at the studio?
Yeah, I'm a community administrator here at Sports Interactive, which means I manage and run the community forums as well as handling the beta testing process. This essentially means I help people with issues when they raise them, but also I provide a lot of feedback from you guys to our internal team to help make the game essentially a better game. So a lot of that comes from you, and we've always appreciated our community. So that's my role here at the company.
Excellent stuff. So obviously today we're talking about transfers and how to make the most out of the transfer market in FM. So we want to talk about selling players. Now, what do you think are the most important things to consider when selling players?
Well, obviously, when you're trying to sell a player, there's normally a reason why you're trying to sell them. So quite often, it's not going to be your best players that you're trying to sell. So things to take into consideration: who's going to want this player? How much are they being paid a week? So if they've got a massive wage, it's going to be really difficult to shift them on. How long's left on their contract as well, because that will come into consideration. Because if a player's on a huge contract, the last thing they're going to want to do is be forced out to another side who are probably going to only be able to pay them less in wages.
Yeah.
So I think that's something really to consider. Is the time of year as well comes into this. So during transfer windows, teams are going to be looking to strengthen their squads, whilst perhaps during the actual season itself, outside of windows, they're less interested in doing that. So you've really got to pick your moment with a lot of players.
Yeah.
Something you've got to consider in the first couple of transfer windows is the fact that when you start a game in Football Manager, when we release it, which is normally around November time, the season's already started. So teams have, by and large, in real life, they've spent their transfer budgets. They've got the sort of squads they're ready to take on a season with. So in the game, a lot of the teams don't have that much money to spend on players. So if you're offering players out, even very good players, quite often the AI will look at their squad and realise, well, I've got, say, left backs, right backs, the types of players you're trying to offer out, and they don't need to replace them. So they just don't have the money. But as the game goes on, of course, by a season or so, a lot more money's flying around, a lot more players are on the move, and you'll find it a lot easier to sell players. And that's not to say it's impossible to sell players during the first window, because in real life there's often a manager who thinks they've made a mistake, they haven't got the players that they want when they start a season. So there's always the opportunity, but it can be difficult during the first couple of windows.
And I know something, I mean, you'll know this as well, something we often get asked by people is why is it when they try and sign players, often the AI managers will put up a huge transfer fee that they want to be able to secure a player's signature. So is that the sort of thing that people should be using themselves if someone comes in for a player that they don't want to get rid of? And why is it that the AI managers do that?
Well, think about it from your perspective. If you've got an amazing player you really don't want to sell, and the AI make any kind of bid for him, more often than not you're going to say, well, I want to keep him. So you will turn it down. The thing was with AI, previously in older versions of Football Manager, we had an option to essentially, for the AI to say the player's not for sale for any price. And we got a lot of feedback on the forums and via social of people saying, well, that's not really realistic, because in real life, every player has a price.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in real life, some of the transfer fees that have flown around. Well, so to try and come up with a compromise where we didn't want to make it incredibly easy for the user to go out and just sign every single player,
Sure.
the AI's response of we don't want to sell is to set an absolutely crazy fee. So you approach a young player and they say, well, we want 40 million for a player who's quite improving. You think, well, that's ridiculous. Well, you can negotiate. You can go back to them and try and get them down a bit. But at the same time, really you should take that as we're not interested in selling.
Yeah. So you mentioned about transfer listing there. Now, if as a human manager I transfer list a player, what effect does that have on the AI clubs who would be interested in signing that player?
Well, there's a good effect and there's a bad effect. The good is you'll probably get more offers for your player.
Okay.
The bad effect is it's going to be for less value overall because
Okay.
they will see that you want to sell the player on. Therefore, they'll feel they can come in with a lower offer than they may otherwise have bid. So you may have a set value for the player, and as soon as they're transfer listed, they'll probably bid less than that. Of course, you can negotiate that. You can try and force them up, but from the AI's perspective, they almost see the player as slightly damaged goods because you're trying to move them on. So,
well, there you go. A few tips there that I think will definitely help you guys when it comes to selling players on the transfer market in FM18. Neil, thanks a lot for coming in.
thank you.
We'll
Yes.
get you on again soon, I promise.
Oh, well, you better.
So thank you very much, Brocky, for having a sit down with us to chat about the best ways to sell your players at a premium and get the biggest bucks you possibly can. And now we've also talked about how to identify your players. I'm going to give you some tips to get them at an absolute bargain and to get them as cheap as possible. So we've got some cool little tips. Tom, do you want to take us with the first one?
Yeah, so the first one is obviously, I think a lot of us know about clauses, but it's how to make the most of the clauses to structure a deal so you're actually not paying over the odds. Now,
Exactly.
we've added in a few tweaks this year to the clauses. There's some brand new ones in there. Also, the way instalments have changed. That's always quite an interesting one for me. Like
Very
being able
different
to
this year.
structure it over, say,
6 month and
6
12
months,
month payments, yeah.
And that's massive, obviously, to take into account with FFP if you're
Exactly.
towards the top of the footballing pyramid. But there's some stuff in there as well, like silverware clauses I always like, because if a player's going to help you win silverware, surely
That's
it
great.
pays off as well. And
Exactly.
if you can negotiate that as part of the fee, then that's a huge help.
And just winning the silverware is great for your club anyway because you make money, you get prize money. It's great for
It just
commercial
pays off.
deals. Always pays off.
Absolutely.
So that clause is it's really important. It's really good to actually delve deeper. Every single year we've got new clauses going into the game.
Yeah.
So it's really useful to just kind of familiarise with more than just the instalments, which is my tendency is to just do a fee, instalments and a percentage
Yeah.
of the next sale. But it's really good to kind of delve deeper and see what you can get the other clubs to accept. And on top of that, another little tip we've got is to actually pay attention to the time left on the contract. Now, obviously, we all know when there's 6 months left, you want to be scouting those players, getting ready to approach to sign them ahead of the release date. But contracts are more important than that. If
Yeah.
you look at a player rather that's got 18 to 24 months left on his contract, that club might be more likely to sell them at a lower fee because they're worried he's not going to renew his deal, he's just going to head off and they're going to lose him on a free. So if you really pay attention to that, it's so important to get players at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
And you can also, sometimes it's useful for wages too. Their wages will be a bit lower. It's really important to look into that. That's just about that for the end of our tips for this part of the episode. If you guys have anything in particular you'd like to see us cover in future episodes, please do put it in the comments down below and we will try our best to cover them in future episodes of the FM show.
So before we go on to this month's Moment of the Month, we're going to go back to last month, and we've picked our winner of the FM doormat. Who wouldn't want the FM doormat? And it's gone to user Kuate on Twitter, who was 1-0 down against Leeds with his QPR side in the 85th minute. Scored in the 85th, scored in the 91st, scored in the 94th minute.
Exactly that, and he needed to score 3 for goal difference. Absolutely unbelievable.
Fairy tale again, wasn't it?
Big time.
Incredible.
So the greatest way to step. So he's going to be winning the doormat. Then of course we've got the Nintendo Switch from the Nintendo Switch Special as well. And who's that heading to, Tom?
Well, we were big fans of this story. There was a lot of competition, some great
There was
stories
indeed.
out there about where you guys have been playing FM. But there was one that stood out to us two, and that was from Sensei Saitama, who said that he played FM on the bench, having been subbed off in a real game.
It's as good as it gets, isn't it?
Which is
He's
incredible.
like, Gaffer, you don't know what you're doing. I'm just going to sit here. This is better. He would have rather been there than out on the pitch, I'm sure.
I mean, he risked a fine for it as well, so it's only fair that
There you go.
we give him a Nintendo Switch. So that'll be winging its way across to you very soon.
And of course, that now means we need to give something else away because we have our next month of the FM moment. Now, you guys have until the end of June to get your submissions in. So just over a month for this one. And of course, to get involved, you need to use hashtag FM moment on Twitter. Just let us know the best things that have happened in your FM save. You have a chance to win the Football 2.0 book. This one we've got right here. It's basically all about how the world's best play the modern game. There's stuff about Xabi Alonso shares the ingredients of the perfect pass. There's some stuff from directors of football, from managers, national team managers, players. Some really insightful stuff about, as I said, how some of the best play the game, and it's a really, really interesting one. So, as I said, to get involved, hashtag FM moment on Twitter, get your submissions in. You've got quite a while to get some good stuff.
We want to see some good ones.
So we want to see some absolute killer ones for this month. But that is that for this month's FM moment.
So that's it for another episode of the FM show. We hope you've enjoyed it and learned a little bit more about how the transfer market works in FM18 and how you guys can make the most of it and earn some more money for your team. So if you have enjoyed the video, then please do leave us a like on it.
And of course, if you have anything to share or any discussion points from around this video, pop them in the comments down below.
And don't forget to subscribe to Football Manager on YouTube for more from the FM show, as well as much, much more besides.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and of course, we will see you all next time. Bye.